Hallo, ik ben Justine en vandaag ga ik in gesprek met Rich en Yvonne Dutra St'John. Een gesprek om jullie te inspireren to go for it, to go for your dreams, get inspired. Ik hoop dat jullie daar dan ook heel erg van gaan genieten. Rich en Yvonne geven 1- en 2-daagse workshops, maar ook langere workshops van 4 maanden om stil te staan bij uw missie in dit leven. Hun visie is dat elke jongere en elke volwassene het recht heeft om in een wereld te leven waar hij zich geliefd, veilig voelt en vooral heel welkom voelt. En wat dat zij doen aan de hand van ervaringsworkshops, dat is om u terug in uw kracht te brengen. Geniet ervan en ik zie jullie straks terug. Oké. Hi, Rich and Yvonne. I'm so happy to see you, and thank you that you said yes to my invitation to be able to interview you. So thank you very much, and I'm really happy to be here. I want actually to start with something you wrote in your introduction of your book. The book is called Be the Hero You've Been Waiting For. Dare to discover the hero within. It's a really beautiful book. It touches me every time I read parts in it. It's really beautiful. And you write, in school we learn how to read, how to write, how to do math, and even how to learn to drive a car. But no one ever taught us how to be ourselves. No one taught us how to deal with the thoughts and feelings we carried inside us every day. No one taught us how to discover our personal truth, how to express our love, how to connect in a deep and honest way with other human beings, how to communicate with our siblings or our parents, and certainly not one taught us how to grow into the parents we wanted to be to our future children. You make an attempt, you write this here in your introduction, to share some of your lessons, your aha moments, where you learned what you didn't learn at school. Can you tell me one of those aha moments?
Well, I think for me, I have so many in my life, but one that comes to mind, especially that my dad has passed recently, was the time that I was in graduate school. Some guy in my class, 40 years old, came in crying. I asked him what was wrong, and he said, my dad died today. Never got to tell him I loved him. And I thought, I'm gonna take that challenge. So I drove, called my parents, said I'm coming over. And all the way there, I kept having these thoughts, it's gonna be wonderful, and Disney, and everything, like a magical thing. And it really wasn't like that. When I got there, my dad was laying on the couch, smoking a cigar, watching a basketball game. My mom was in the kitchen doing dishes. I said, can I talk to you? He said, okay. I said, I just want you to know I love you guys a lot. And my mom, she says, well, we love you too, son. She always used to answer for my dad. And my dad, he just said thanks. And I started to cry thinking, what's wrong? Why can't my dad tell me he loves me? And but I got brave and I said, Dad, you know what I'd really like is a hug. And my dad, he just crossed his arms and legs and said, I wasn't brought up that way. And I walked out of the house crying, thinking I'm 21, men aren't supposed to cry. But about halfway across the line, I thought to myself, it's not my problem, it's his. I had the courage to do it, ask for what I wanted, gave it away. He just didn't know how to get it back because no one ever gave it to him. And he just passed this last week. And one of the beautiful things I know is that the aha moment for me was everything in my life, including my relationship with my dad, prepared me to do what I do. And I was able to write him a letter and tell him how proud I am to have been his son. I was able to tell him how much I loved him, and Yvonne and I actually got to hold him through right to this point of death, and it was full circle beautiful that we were able to hug and kiss and love each other at the end of life. So that's for me one of those moments that I know it's in my body that I can share with other people.
It's beautiful. It reminds me when you once told me that story a long time ago, how that touches me, and then how you can, you can do what feels good to you, and then once you said to someone what you wanted to say, then it's their part, it's their time to do what feels good for them, and then you can't control the outcome.
Exactly, and that's why the book's Be the Hero, because if you do the part that's yours, and let it go, the rest is up to the other person.
Yeah, I think there is also a beautiful lesson in that you can't regret it. You just did what you wanted to do, and no one can take that away from you. That's good. And what was one of your aha moments?
So many. In this moment I'm thinking of a school, we did challenge day early in the years of doing challenge days, so probably about 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It was a really small school, and all the kids, there was about 100 kids that were in a circle inside of their gym, and the administrator pointed out to me, this is before we started, see all those kids over on this side? Those kids are the kids that are the stars of the school. They're so amazing. And I said, oh, thank you. And so I went in just to visit with the, say hi, introduce myself to all the young people. And I went over to those kids and I said, I heard great things from your administrators about how wonderful students you are. And they said, yeah. And I said, can you tell me about the rest of the students at your school? And they said, well, those boys are really nice. And then they said, see that girl over there? We don't like her. And I said, why don't you like her? And they go, oh, she's really weird. And then they all started laughing. And I was like, so I'm so taken back by it. And so we started the program, and people started opening up, and people started having tears. This girl was named Annie, and her mom was also there to assist her. And I found out later that she had a little bit of Down syndrome.
Yeah.
And when we get into small groups, her mom sat next to her. There's a part in the challenge day when we have people be able to stand up and speak whatever they want to share. What did they learn? What do they want people to know? And this girl, she was really shy, and she raised her hand, and I went over and I said, Annie, do you want to talk? And she said yes, and she stood up and she kind of froze, and then these tears started coming down her cheeks, and she said, I don't want people to hurt me anymore. And her mom sat next to her, and her mom looked up, and her mom didn't know that she was being hurt every day, and her mom started getting tears in her eyes. And I said, what's happening at school, Annie? And she said, the kids call me stupid and they laugh at me every day. And I turned to the group and I said, okay, I want to ask everyone in the room to do something that may be one of the most challenging things you've ever done in your life. If you know you have ever teased Annie, or you ever heard her, or if you ever stood by and watched as somebody was hurting her, and in this moment you want to come tell her you're sorry, only if you mean it, would you please do that? Every kid in the school lined up behind her. Every one of them had hurt her. And one at a time they stood in front of her and said, I'm so sorry, Annie. And they're crying, and they said, I'm so sorry, I'll never do it again. Her mother sat next to her witnessing this, and all the teachers in the school who didn't even know that at recess she was being teased, the whole group started crying. And what I realized is these kids were these very intelligent kids, these kids that did so well in school, but what they hadn't learned was compassion. They didn't learn empathy until that moment, but I also learned, my aha moment is how quickly our heart can be reawakened and to see, and it was one of the most beautiful moments of my life. I remember her mother, like once a week, would send like a postcard to me, with usually one word. One day it was grace. Another word, it was just thank you. And like each week, I'd get a card in the mail from her mother. But it's right there, and our hearts are right there and easily touched, but we're not learning that in school.
No, we're not learning that in school. It's beautiful, and actually it brings me exactly to the next question I wanted to ask you. And you often say everybody does the best they can. And I can sometimes, when you tell this story, what would you say then? Because probably those children, they are not aware of what they do to each other. And what would you recommend teachers or parents? Because sometimes you have like really difficult behavior that you don't want. But then as a teacher you try to figure it out how you can handle this, or how do you have solutions for a problematic situation. But then I know that there are a lot of teachers in our school who give everything they can to find solutions, but then I have an example of a pupil who was he kept on lying and stealing, and we gave him chances, but then again it didn't work out, and he had to leave school because he was stealing again and again. And there are like a lot of loving, dedicated teachers, but what would you recommend them? Because sometimes you think, yeah, well, everybody does the best they can, but then how you handle the situations?
Well, of course, everyone's individual. First, I'd say that everybody does the best they can with the tools they received, with the education they received, with the love they got, with the life situations that happen in life, and with any unhealed hurt they've carried with them from their childhood, which may not have happened in the family. Any of the hurt could have happened at school. So everyone's different, and what I'd want to do is to find out, like, what's underneath that. Because a child isn't born hurting somebody. A child isn't born being mean or lying or stealing, and so usually there's something underneath it. I always say when somebody is hurting another person, it's usually because of ignorance or fear. A lot of times it's learned behavior. So, for example, the kids that were teasing Annie every day, they learn that.
Yeah.
They watched other kids do it. Maybe even their parents are putting down other people. But there could be also something else underneath it. And so I'm assuming that they got help for this child to see what's going on. But there's still, to make that assumption helps me come from compassion. So I'm not coming from a place of, this is a bad kid, which we don't believe there's such thing as a bad kid. So that's where I'd come from.
Yeah, it's like we follow the idea that everything is either an act of love or a cry for more love. So adding love, in whatever form that is, I mean, seeing the light that's still inside that child, or looking for connection. I don't know, because can't answer for any one particular person. It's just, if I believe you're a good person and I'm looking for that, and I keep giving you that message, at some point it starts to bubble up. Now, the truth is, for teachers and parents, so many things are going on all the time that I can't stop and give every kid that kind of attention. And that's kind of the downside of our system, because we don't have time to really get into each other's hearts. I think that's why Challenge Day is so great, because we go in and do a whole day, and people get to get a lot of impact in one day, and then the teachers can work from there. That's the whole idea of If You Really Knew Me. So we stop comparing our insides to other people's outsides, making up stories. You're better, you're worse. I'm the only one who ever feels this way. And the truth is, we have more in common than different, and there's some place and some way to reach every kid.
I believe that too, and you are the ones who taught me that.
Thank you for taking that on.
What is your opinion on the following statement? Every difficult situation you encounter is an invitation to grow.
Well, it's how we hold our perspective of life. We're in choice every day. Our thoughts create our feelings. And so if I look at the world and my thoughts look at a difficult situation is terrible, or how, it's distressing, then that's how I feel, and that's how I live my life. But if I live my life looking for the gift in everything, like, what if there's something to learn? What if there's a gift? What if there's something bigger that's actually unfolding that's yet to be seen? It's a whole different way to live in the world, and it has me then living with purpose, which helps me be free, helps me feel more alive, helps me feel faith and joy.
Well, I think for me, every difficult situation, we're not victims. We don't get to say what happens to us, but we do get to say how we want to respond, or what choice we're going to make. And for me, it's always, what can I learn from this? What can I contribute to this situation? Or how can I use it as an opportunity to adjust or grow, exactly.
Okay, can you give an example?
I'll give an example when I'm living in right now. My mother, who's 82 years old, has Alzheimer's disease. And I'm in the process of watching her slowly disappear. She's part of her is dying every day. I can look through the eyes of how horrible this is, and this disease is so terrible, which I believe on some level, of course it is, and someday we'll find a cure. But what I'm also doing is looking for the miracles. Like there's a piece of innocence in her that is so beautiful and so pure. There's a place in her that she has forgotten so much of the distress of her life, that she's like this child. So I'm looking for ways that I can love her, and I'm having these intimate moments, these precious, sacred moments with my mother that I've never had in my life. I can pull my mother on my lap, who is now very much a child, and I can sing to her, and I can rock her, and I could look at this as one of the most intimate and precious times that I wouldn't have had without the disease. So it's a matter of looking for what's precious and sacred in everything.
And you're such a role model in doing that, because when I see you with your mother and hugging her and just talking about like those little things in life, then it's just an example to do the same for everyone around us.
Well, and for me, watching that process happen with her and Yvonne and her mom, it's been one of the most inspiring things I've ever seen. Because both Yvonne and I had hard upbringings, and we had a lot of challenges with our parents. And her mom said to her, "Was I a good mom?" And she says, "You were the perfect mom for me." And she could have made a decision to hurt her mom, but she was basically saying, all the lessons I learned from you, either for better or for worse, got me here. That's an example of how you love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ragu.
That's how you can't say it's a bad or good thing. Everything is just a way, a choice that you can grow from it if you want to face it and just look for the miracles in everything. You give workshops to adults. It's called Be the Hero, to reflect on their life mission. What are important principles and foundations in your work to dare to go for your dreams?
So, like when I ask young people what is their biggest dream, their biggest response, most common response, is to make lots of money. So first of all, to know we're conditioned very young to have our goal to have wealth, to acquire money, to acquire things. And so what we're really, our work is about, and what our invitation is, to look inside and to see, like, if we asked you the question, why have you come to Earth? And if you could get paid as much money as you ever dreamed of to do what made your heart sing, to have you be so excited, you get out of bed in the morning to do that because it wasn't a job, it's because it's what you came here to do, what lit you up, what made you happy. That's our invitation, to seek that. And what if we all came here for a reason, or many reasons? And usually it isn't just to acquire wealth, it's usually to feed our heart and soul and to in some way contribute to one another or to the earth and to the well-being of all beings.
Like you make that difference for that little girl who you spoke about. That's why you've come to Earth.
I mean, I always say, like, we are so blessed to make a living doing what we came to Earth to do. But honestly, I'd be doing it even if I didn't make money. Because I can do no other if I listen to what my heart's saying.
Thank you for that. What are the success stories of participants you witness after following a Be the Hero trajectory?
Like a Be the Change?
Yeah, Be the Change, or Why Have You Come to Earth?
We have all these different workshops.
Success stories about people who just dare to go for their dreams. Do you have a success story that comes to mind?
Oh, there's so many, so many. The unleashing of. So we have a dear friend who, in their life, had experienced, for example, hearing different voices, and at times thinking there was something wrong with them. And what this person did was actually to write a book about what they were hearing and how they dealt with it and the voices and the parts of their personality. And now the book is out into the world and other people to be able to hear and to be able to learn and to see. Yeah, so that's one of them.
Oh, we've had so many miracle stories. I mean, I'm thinking of, there was one woman who came to the workshop and she had been really violated sexually, for example. And for her, it was scary for her to have any, especially a man around her. And if somebody came behind her, she would jump. And we got her to the point where she was stepping into her fear. And I stood across the room from her, maybe 10 meters or so, and just had my arms out and let her take one step closer and closer. And she chose to hug, and now she'll still have a little reaction when people are around, but it's so healed in herself. And now she's going out and teaching kids in schools about sexual abuse and how to heal it, and self-harm as well. So it's just one of the most inspirational, heartwarming leadership turnaround stories I could think of, and there's so many more.
Another one that I have, so a young woman came from India to a Why Have You Come to Earth intensive, and had never participated in anything and of such things where we, really dive deep and look into our hearts and souls, heal anything from the past, and it was just life-changing for her. And her dream was to bring the work of Challenge Day to India. And so her project became to learn pieces like how to do If You Really Knew Me, how to talk about feelings, and so what I did was just worked with her in her own process on going deep. And then she's taken those pieces back now to India, and she's going to the schools in India and actually doing the work of Challenge Day all over India. And it's like unbelievable that someone would come, be inspired, and go and bring the work the other side of the world.
Miracles.
Yeah.
What is the greatest lesson you've learned throughout your life and career?
Wow, greatest lesson.
I know the greatest lesson for me through my life and career is all the seeking and all the doing is not what my soul really craves. Ultimately, it's my family, it's the quiet moments, it's the stillness, it's making the time for us to sit down and look in each other's eyes and set everything else aside and just be together. So, we've traveled around the world. We've met many, many beautiful, powerful, incredible people. And when it comes down to it, it's being with the ones that are dearest to me is what's most important, and being on the earth and in nature. When it comes to, those are the biggest lessons. And it's kind of ironic, the Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home. And home in here, home in our families, and, that's for me.
Can you ask the question again? Because I got so lost in her beautiful answer.
I'm going to ask the question again. What is the greatest lesson you've learned throughout your life and career?
Probably that, for me, it's that if I come from the place in myself, if I'm loving myself, if I can be gentle with myself, that and allow myself to know that everything I see out there is me, then I get to just look at how do I love it. Because for me, there's a category on the Challenge Day that Yvonne added in. Cross the line if you ever had horrible things said to you by you. And I don't cross, and I realized I've really come to go, all the things I've always done my best. So I'll be gentle with me. That gives me the chance to be gentle with you. And if I'm beating me up, then I have to make you wrong too. So it's a way that I've found that I come home to me, and whether it's, for me, I have a strong faith. So it's like if I can rest in knowing I have everything I need inside, then I can give it away. And that's so to work on me is the first step.
Because if you are like in that state of being calm, and then that is how you will give back the best you can to others. And if you don't have that time for yourself, you cannot reconnect with yourself or having the energy that you need afterwards to do your work, for example.
Yeah.
Because if you are like, my God, I want to spend some more time with my mom, or I want to be there because they need me. Well, if you don't do that, then you can't show up. Yeah, you miss the moment and you can't show up as you would like to show up.
Actually, how we build our life, that's the other piece of it, is by being in the moment. Each choice we make, if it's adding love, we look back and we've had a lot of loving moments. So it's really, by being in the moment is the only time you can choose to create the next moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would just add to that, knowing that our work is so who we are, and so it's very tempting. We get calls all the time, this school's had this happen, or this suicide, or this, these people need the work. So it's really tempting, and so what we've done every year before we will book any workshops, we first make sure we look at our calendar and we put in our most sacred time. Every week we have time for us to have our date times together, our times to go be slow, to look in each other's eyes, to be connected with each other, family time, the grandchildren time.
Yeah.
We actually put that in first because the world and everything can take over, and at that point then we've compromised what's most sacred to us, and so that's been what we really live by and have for so long. Otherwise, it all crumbles if we don't have each other and that kind of bond in our family. We really can't give to other people.
It's with all that we go through and deal with to have our love be at the center of it and make sure that the date time, meaning that we landed with each other. It really takes us in a powerful example for the world, right? So then the same with our kids. Our kids watched us have those, and all of our kids in their relationships have date nights because they saw it happen. And
we put a little sign on the door. They'd have their favorite babysitters, date night tonight.
Really? Yeah.
And so all of our kids now, they're grown adults, and so every week they have date nights and make their relationships safe.
or at least that's what
It's really
we
important.
understand.
Yeah. I'm going to organize a date night with Carl this week. I have a lot of respect for you. You are my heroes. You are my heroes, because you are so pure and authentic. You possess a wisdom that ensures that everyone around you feels accepted and can be him or herself. Everyone is growing in your presence. That's what I notice. That is what I see when I'm around with you. Is that the key for every parent, teacher, CEO, and world leader? Because you are yourself, you are authentic, and that invites others to also be completed at home. Is showing your fragility the key to live a happy life?
Well, I don't know if it's the only thing, but I do like the fact that what you see is what you get. Like, we are congruent, we live what we teach, and we teach what we live. And so it's there's no separation in our life between, oh, now I'm at work or I'm at this place. It's really, the intention is, how can we contribute? How can we add love right now? And whether you're at a party and there's someone alone in the corner, or whether, to just bring that authentic self does provide, and it feels huge for me, especially seeing you and knowing who you are and the difference you make in your classroom and all the ways you love. To have it be that somehow we added to that, like that means somehow we contributed to empowering you to have some even more of that in your life. There's nothing better.
Yeah, there's nothing.
And authentically, I'd say it's just selfish for me.
Yeah.
That's how I want to live, because I feel lonely like everyone else if we're not authentic. To have a surface conversation to me is not interesting at this time in my life. To know of your joys, to know of your sorrows, to know what is real in your heart is what I crave. And at this point, all I really want. So.
Well, and then one more thing I'll just say, it was a huge insight that when I wrote my dad his end-of-life letter, I was thinking that I wrote to him that the things I learned to do came from him, and the things I learned not to do came from him at the same time. And I was able to be honest with that about it. But what I realized was he always had really good values, and some part of the little boy inside of me wanted to prove that they were livable. And so in some way, his stuckness sometimes, or not knowing how to live it, inspired me. And so I just realized that that's really important to me to get out in the world, is that, you know, my dad can take credit for it, my dad can feel it, and I'm feeling it for now and living it.
That's really, really, really beautiful. I'm sure you have many more dreams. How do you deal with obstructive thoughts that keep you from going for your dreams? And what would you recommend other people who struggle with that?
How do I deal with it? Well, the tools that I use to, you know, just feel authentically. I have my closest people to me, my closest circle of sisters, of friends, and so let's say I'm feeling stuck. Like I've had some this year, sometimes of just some of my dreams and had a lot to do with the politics and just a lot of the fear in America and the stuff that's been up. So I just sit down and just go into it, and just like I'm noticing, you know, like share and cry, and I'm noticing I'm just like this layer of heaviness, and so just like allow myself to just try rip it off, cry it off, and then find myself again within it. Also nature, I just recently went up to the top of a hill and just spent the day just sitting and just being in the stillness and praying and just remembering, you know, who I am, and also letting go of a thought that I think is a dream, because perhaps that thought is a dream, but perhaps there's something that's coming in that is more authentic to who I am now, and that dream needs to merge with something else or needs to be released. And so not to get attached to that.
Not to get attached to the outcome or how.
Exactly, or the form.
What wisdom can you pass on to the future generation when it comes to live a happy life?
Wow. Well, I think that's where I actually find that thing that's inside your heart that, like Yvonne said, would get you up every day and bring you into action. So for me, a happy life is being true to myself and sharing that truth with other people. And there's some quotes I heard, like, your vibe attracts your tribe. The way that we are being and how we're being, start to notice who's around. And as the community builds, as the opportunities present themselves, if we keep being true to ourselves and do our part, it's a happy life.
Yeah.
And I always say happy wife, happy life, because the goal is find out what the other person wants and give it to them. In our relationship workshops that we talk about, because the truth is, if I'm all about me and what I get or don't get, there's a selfishness, and then I take this back and I take that back. But if I'm trying to love her and her love strategy, for example, which is listening, or I feel her touch my shoulder because mine is touch, I go, oh, we just shared what each other wants. Yeah.
I think for me it's slowing down. I think ultimately, when on our deathbed, we will not be celebrating all the to-dos that we accomplish and all the money or wealth we accumulated. But I know for me, those moments where I'm on the floor playing with my grandchildren, making forts, or taking walks out in the rain and the mud, or just dreaming, you know, or sleeping in and having breakfast in bed, or, you know, it's slowing down and noticing. I think so often we're not really experiencing what we're experiencing. We're not feeling, we're not smelling, we're not tasting, we're not being in it. So I just say, slow down, slow down.
Yeah.
What advice, I'm going first to ask you, Yvonne, what advice would you give to your 7-year-old Yvonne?
Advice? I don't know that I'd give my 7-year-old any advice. I think I would just pull her on my lap. I would hug her and tell her she's good enough. She's good enough, and there's nothing she has to do, nowhere she has to go, that she's just good enough just the way she is. Advice, play, and never stop playing, never stop having fun.
Thank you.
I noticed the question brought me to tears because I had this picture of looking at my 7-year-old and saying, "You're enough. There's nothing you have to do. Just be who you are, and you're perfect the way you are. I don't have advice, just you're doing perfect." Because I noticed that's the thing for me that I most needed to hear. Let your shoulders down and relax. You got this, and I got you.
I had yesterday I was watching a little movie about what I'm asking you now, and I was a little bit stressed for this interview, and then I told myself, what do you need, and what would you tell your 7-year-old Justine? And then I said, just be with me, just be there with me, and it's gonna be all right. Yeah.
And you're doing such a beautiful
Yeah.
You just feel so loved
Oh,
and
you
safe
are
in your
so
presence.
beautiful.
And,
Thank you for everything you share. It's beautiful. I have a last question for you both.
Okay.
Who is your great example? Who do you look up to, and why? Who is your great example, and who do you look up to, and why?
Wow. So many choices there too.
There are so many people throughout history that I've learned from and looked up to, and I've studied primarily bringers of love, people who teach peace. But I think my biggest example is my daddy. He just lived as an example of love. He would just, every day brought him joy to bring love to other people's lives. In whatever forms he could find. He was, giving an example, he's a building inspector, and at one point this family, they had very little money, and they had built a garage right next to their house, and it was for family to live in. Well, it was illegal how close they built it to their house, and he knew they didn't have money to rebuild it, and they were getting ready to go on a vacation or go to see their family in Mexico. And he says, "Go to Mexico, we'll talk when you get back." But he knew he would have to tell them legally, they would have to take it down. While they were gone, he got up every morning at 3 a.m. He ripped it down and he rebuilt it to the place it needed to be legally. These were the things he did every day, and a lot of them we didn't even know about until he passed. And he was just so present and so there, and so that was my model of love. And actually, they say you marry your parents. I definitely married that part of my dad in Richie. So
Oh my God.
And I noticed the story. I could say you, Yvonne, for how you live and who you be, and because I know you and what you do. But it's anybody. Gandhi comes to mind, where I have a truth that I'm so going to stand into, I'm going to be into, I'm going to stand for, that doesn't get rattled at any point. I'll be relentless about it. And so I feel like I'm trying that myself to do that for love. I think of Jesus, I think of Gandhi, I think of Mandela, all the people who let their stand be in the sand and nobody could take it away. And it doesn't matter what came at us.
Okay. May I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this interview, for your wise words. You are the change that this world needs. You gave me the tools to discuss problems with young people. My students tell me how much has changed for them since then, how their connection has been established in their classroom, how they have to talk with their parents, how without you knowing, you have already saved lives here in Belgium. Thank you on behalf of me and all of them. And I love you so much. I don't know if this is needed, but I love you so much. And I would want it that this could last forever. Your presence is, I am so thankful for everything. So I love you.
Thank you.